Because I'm hearing like, yeah, they don't give us, if y'all don't give us what we want, like, we sitting out.
That's a possibility, for real.
Angel Reese has made headlines in the WNBA by threatening to sit out if you don't pay us more. Her remarks sent shockwaves across the basketball community, reigniting the contentious discussion of women's sports salaries. Don't give us what we want, we'll sit out.
A league that averages losing $25–30 million a year, and these women are coming out, if we don't get what we want, if we don't get what we deserve, if you got what you deserve, you'd be paying to play in the WNBA.
As the boycott rumors caught up like wildfire, Caitlin Clark chose a totally different approach, emphasizing the remarkable advancements the women's game is making rather than drawing comparisons between the WNBA and the NBA.
And television ratings, if you understand media rights deals, if you got common sense, there's no reason for a WNBA player ever in life compare the WNBA to the NBA, all right? Even as bad as the NBA's ratings have gotten, they're still better than the majority of all WNBA.
Observe how the two approaches differ greatly in that one seeks benefits right away, while the other concentrates on creating a sustainable future. How did we arrive at this conclusion? Let's dissect everything.
Because Dejanay Carrington was on with Angel Reese on her podcast when Angel Reese sent a message out there threatening to set out. Good Lord. All right.
Yes, that's correct. On her Outspoken Angel podcast, Angel Reese is not only demanding higher compensation, she is also threatening to shut down the WNBA as a whole if her demands are not fulfilled. Her declaration has everyone talking.
The meetings, they are.
I need to get in the field.
You need to come to the
I
meetings.
gotta get in the meetings because I'm hearing like, yeah, they don't give us, if y'all don't give us what we want, like, we sitting out.
That's a possibility, for real.
She didn't mince words. If you don't give us what we want, there will be serious repercussions if we ignore this boycott call. The fact that Rhee has participated in talks regarding the impending collective bargaining agreements (EBA), which govern everything from revenue sharing to salary caps and player benefits, makes it even more intriguing that one of the WNBA's rising stars is already thinking about leaving the league. Rhee is especially concerned that next season's rookies may end up making more money than the current players. That's correct. She worries that newbies will get better contracts than veterans who have already worked hard.
We all did it.
Yeah, the CBA is coming up. I can't do it.
Girl, y'all benefited from everything. Y'all youngins benefited from NIL.
What does that mean? We deserve more.
Of course,
Everybody.
I agree.
Everybody.
I agree with that.
But we gotta get paid for consequences. Damn, we gotta get it up.
Y'all gotta
like,
do something. Y'all gotta do something.
But the women coming in, not this year, but next year, or the ones coming in this year will still be on the rookie contract again. The ones the year after, they gonna get more. They probably gonna be making more than us.
This may appear to be a straightforward negotiating strategy at first, but this is where things get complicated. The popularity of women's basketball is at an all-time high. The WNBA is flourishing and gear is flying off the shelves.
And so they're going to risk ruining a good thing. The last thing they need is some sort of work stop.
Demanding greater pay now may come across as impatient or worse, screed.
Anyway, this is just a bad look for the WNBA. Angel Reese just wants content for her podcast. She's playing checkers.
However, this is a reality check. Reese seems to be ignoring the fact that the WNBA has never turned a profit in its 28-year existence, not even when the league has been dependent on the NBA. It is impossible to overlook the need for financial support simply to endure this enormous disconnect between expectations and financial realities.
And these women are talking about, if we don't get what we want, if we don't get what we deserve, if you got what you deserve, you'd be paying to play in the WNBA.
The figures provide a clear picture. Even with NBA sponsorship, the WNBA loses between $25 and $30 million a year, which makes it tough to defend greater salaries. Money that isn't there can't be distributed.
So, of course, literally, this league has never turned a profit, ever. You guys know that. I have to keep bringing it up because a lot of people don't, believe it or not, they don't know that in the 27-year, 28-year existence of this women's pro basketball league, it has been kept afloat because of the subsidization of the NBA and their owners, keeping it alive. Otherwise, it would have died a long time ago, and Caitlin Clark would have never had a chance to straighten out the...
Angel's position exposes a basic ignorance of sports economics, which which states that NFL players make more money than AAF players since athletes are compensated according to the money they make, why NBA salaries are higher than those of the WNBA, and why Premier League football players make more than MLS players. Right now, the WNBA is finally gaining significant momentum after years of financial challenges. With more fans, bigger sponsors, and full arenas, the league's destiny through 2026 will be determined by the ongoing CBA discussions, making it a critical moment for stable leadership. Angel Reese's demand for a boycott is a short-sighted move at a time when long-term planning is essential. A strike might halt advancement at a time when the league is beginning to prosper, and the argument for equitable compensation is becoming more heated. When Caitlin Clark joined the discussion, everything changed drastically. The WNBA's biggest star, speaking at a 2025 cardiovascular research event, took a totally different tack than the rookie who was threatening. Demonstrating her genuine understanding of the basketball industry, Clark had the ideal opportunity to rally support for the boycott, but she made the wiser decision to completely reject the connection between the WNBA and NBA.
So, enter in Caitlin Clark. And I'm going to tell you, very solid answer from Caitlin Clark, because she's asked about comparing the WNBA to the NBA when it comes to things like salary. And Caitlin Clark, well, let's just say she doesn't agree with Angel.
I'm not a big fan of comparing the NBA and WNBA. I don't think that's fair. Clark has stated that instead of fighting for money that doesn't exist, yet she is celebrating the WNBA's enormous growth. Clark praises the league's progress, saying that "I think where the league is right now is pretty incredible for
Caitlin Clark, comparisons between the league is pointless. Bravo. Somebody's got a brain. She says she is focused on how the WNBA can keep growing. Quote, "I'm not huge on comparing the WNBA to the NBA. I don't think that's fair." Wow, logic everywhere here.
Consider that instead of demanding more money, the player with the most clout is emphasizing the league's progress, which is not only clever PR, but also a wise financial decision.
I mean, I'm not huge on comparing the WNBA and the NBA. I don't really think that's fair. Obviously, I think where the WNBA is right now is pretty incredible. I think a lot of people, or most people, would not believe it's in the place that it is right now. So I think when people always ask me this question, where I think it'll be in 5 years, is it's hard for me to answer, because people didn't even think we'd be right here right now. And I think really sky's the limit.
Given that Clark is mostly responsible for the latest WNBA, her answer is even more remarkable. She could easily be the most outspoken advocate for greater compensation due to her rise in fame, but she's playing the long game, since she knows that actual income increase comes after she broke down the actual factors that affect WNBA wages, rather than merely making generalizations about revenue growth.
Our TV numbers when we're on, national television, we're averaging over 1 million viewers or whatever it is. The All-Star game, I think, was over 4 million viewers. It's just really big numbers. So the more opportunities we're given, I think the more.
She notably brought up the disparity in workload between the leagues. She is aware that pay is correlated with workload and revenue, which is frequently overlooked in these discussions, as evidenced by the NBA's demanding 80-game season and the WNBA's 40 games, which will rise to 40 for the upcoming season. Clark also discussed the league's intentions for growth, which directly addresses one of the WNBA's largest obstacles, with new clubs arriving next year and more on the horizon. Raising compensation is impossible without first expanding the company. More teams translate into more games, more spectators, more sponsors, and eventually more money for the players. The main conclusion from Clark's viewpoint is her belief in the WNBA's future when she says, "Sky's the limit for the WNBA." She's not just making sentimental remarks, rather she's demonstrating an awareness of how sports economics operate, where more viewers translate into better sponsorships, which raise increased revenue, results in higher salaries.
Games. That is a huge thing that a lot of people don't talk about, right? The NBA plays probably more than double. WNBA will play 44 next year. 40 they just played. I think they've only been doing that a few seasons. Correct me if I'm wrong. But the NBA also has a much longer playoff. They've got a lot more games on TV, a lot more opportunity for TV ratings, which means media rights, ad revenue, and that is what allows these leagues to pay the salaries they
see the significant shift in strategy. One is more concerned with long-term success, while the other expects immediate gratification without taking the Financial Realities into account Clark is considering a number of future moves, while some are responding in the heat of the situation.
It's all still her. All right. And that's who everybody has tuned into, is Caitlin Clark. It is not anybody else. Let's not get confused. Ratings, revenue, the whole nine.
For example, if two coffee shops on the same street serve 40 and 1,600 clients daily respectively, would you expect the baristas at both to make the same amount? Of course not, but that is precisely what occurs when people compare the salaries of the NBA and WNBA.
Silence is golden, and sometimes less is more when it comes to players talking and using their platform and getting out their.
The disparity in workload highlights the pay gap. Even more WNBA athletes play a lengthy playoff run, whereas NBA players put in 80 games throughout the regular season. Angel Reese is arguing that this fundamental idea applies to all professional sports, but it simply doesn't add up to play 40 games, or half the workload.